Hello and welcome back now with apologies to the late great Louis Armstrong. Grab your coat and get your hat and leave your worries on the doorstep as Marilyn Alice takes us to the colourful city of New Orleans and captures how life can be so sweet on the sunny side of the street in part one of today's Try Your Hand At project.
Today we're going to be painting a New Orleans scene. It was a Christmas Eve and it was really sunny. This really lends itself to a watercolour painting. Lots of really strong shadows and lots of really white light. So I'm going to start by using a big brush, the Whopper, and a wash of burnt umber. There's plenty of water, not too much paint. Want to keep that little bit highlighted. There's all the light shapes that I can see. I'm just painting in with this very pale wash. A little bit more water to that just to lighten it. When it dries, it will dry very light, which is really good. There'll just be a little hint of a colour. And I bring that down onto the foreground. Let's get that on really quickly. That's why you need a bigger brush. If you were to use a tiny brush, it would take you forever just sort of fiddling, and the larger the brush, the more water you can get on, the quicker you can get that wash on. I'm just going to add a tiny little bit of burnt umber, a thicker mix, just into that corner there. If I can see any little white highlights around those people, I'll just tease that paint gently in so they don't look like they've got halos around them later. Right, now for the lighter colours with a smaller brush on the actual people. I'm keeping the palette quite simple and I'm just going to use some burnt umber and some French ultramarine for the moment. So just a very pale wash of the French ultramarine. The light's really hitting her trousers there, so we'll just paint over the whole of it for the moment. On this sky. I want it to look really light. I want quite a strong contrast. Now I'm going to mix some burnt umber and French ultramarine together, but still I want it fairly light and watery. It'll just be slightly greyer this time with that mix of French ultramarine and burnt umber. Plenty of water. I'll just lighten that slightly. That's slightly too dark. You just do that by adding some more water into that mix, just pulling that off gently. That's better. Just carry on all the light bits that you can see. Just a hint of paint. Just a little bit on the hat. Right, for the faces, I'm going to use some light red with a tiny bit of sepia, just to kill it so they don't look sort of orange. And again, just down the side where the light is hitting them. If you're not too sure, just squint at the photograph and it stands out a lot more. All right, we'll just put a little bit of the windows in. So some French ultramarine, burnt umber, just mixed a little bit thicker than before. I don't want it too dark. And the light's really hitting those windows, but it's not white light, it's just slightly darker. This is in shadow, so a little bit darker again. Same mix, French ultramarine, burnt umber. It's really just starting to place everything. A little bit of burnt umber on its own, again quite watered down. That's the bold brickwork. Let's lighten that again. I think this is one of the oldest pubs in New Orleans, or possibly in America, with no running water. And the Christmas Eve, I think these were locals that were just relaxing outside and winding down after they'd worked Christmas Eve. Right, that's dry. I'm just going to make a start now on the first figure. So we'll just give her some hair. So a thicker mix of the burnt umber. Just sort of squint to see where the darker shapes are. And if you look at her face, rather than painting in features, I'm just going to paint in the shapes that I can see that the sun is making. So with a mix of light red and a little bit of sepia, so it's fairly thick, fairly dark. Slightly darker than that. And that's just the shape that I can see. So there's no eyes. I'm not putting in the sunglasses, they often look quite strange. Just a touch of that sepia for a hairline. Right, this is where the fun starts. So a thick mix of French ultramarine and burnt umber, really quite a gooey mix of colour, not too much water and plenty of paint. Just look at those dark shapes on her jacket. Just adding a tiny bit of burnt umber into that mix just to change it slightly for the trousers, but still very dark. Into the brown again, just for her shoes. And a little bit of blue for her scarf. A little bit squinting. If there's anything dark that I've missed out, there's a little dark outline around her hairline. The light's catching that there. Some shadow on her socks. Oh, just quickly painting one of the chairs. So burnt umber, French ultramarine. Dry brush marks. So we're about halfway through the painting, so if you'd like to join me later where you can see the rest of the scene painted.
Lovely little style there, Marilyn, and we look forward to seeing part 2 later on in today's programme. Now it's time for our regular light-hearted feature where we ask popular artists what's your favourite. This week we asked leading professional artist and personal friend Jeremy Ford to tell us more about things that inspire his creativity.
Probably Permanent Rose Just Has the Edge. It's the most gorgeous pink when it's used lightly with plenty of water in watercolor, or with whites if you're painting in acrylics or oils, or when you use it more thickly with less water, more paint. It's a fantastic kind of cherry colour. Well, I've done a variety of painting holidays all over the place, and I keep getting drawn back to the Lake District. My favourite technique is probably splodging, which if you've never seen splodging before, you'll have to wait until you see me and I'll show you.
Okay, it's time for a quick break now, folks, but join us in part 3 when we'll be showcasing the works of up-and-coming SAA professional soft pastel artist and tutor Catherine Ingalls in our regular introducing feature, and we'll go cover to cover with our resident bookworm Henry Malt as he searches the SAA Art Library for another inspirational read. I'll see you after the break.